Welcome back guys to another GTA video, and in today's one we finally get that Humane Labs Elite Challenge completed. So to kick things off, first of all you will need to own this well, not this one, the one next door. It's not showing up because I actually own it at the moment. So the one you're looking for is 2044 North Conquer Avenue. It's the one next door to this one that you do need to buy for the heist. The second thing that you do need for this heist is 4 players, and unfortunately for us we only had 3. None of our regular 4th players were available, so it was down to the randoms that we found, and it left for a very interesting couple of days trying to get this one completed due to communication and people just not doing what they're asked to do. But we did eventually get there, so this is the story of how we did it with a random level 33, believe it or not. I do also have the usual accomplices in Nick and Dimples helping out, but without further ado, let's get on and see how we did. And first up we did have this level 120 who helped us out for a little bit. We had been speaking to him for couple of minutes beforehand, letting them know what we were doing and what we expected him to do, and part of that was jumping on the back of my Hikuchu drag here, but he obviously thought he knew better and decided to take his Vigilante. Now don't get me wrong, the Vigilante is a really fast and powerful car that you do need to be able to get to the destination as quickly as possible, but I've yet to meet someone that can drive it properly. And speaking of driving, you do need to avoid a lot of the traffic, and unfortunately on this very first run that we did, we got the worst possible NPC traffic, and it's just making a mockery of me right here. But we do decide, because it is our very first attempt on this run, just to run it through just to see what sort of time and attempt that we do actually get on it. And as you can see, here comes our level 120 friend in the Vigilante just alongside me. But by the time we reach the helicopter, he's still nowhere near, and we do need to waste time and go and pick him up. But this just highlights the sort of things that you do not want to be doing on this heist. Now it is critical that all 4 players reach the helicopter at the same time. And another issue here was that our gunner friend decided to jump along with the 2 that jumped inside, which wasn't ideal. And then the final issue that we had on this very first run was that the gunner himself wasn't too great on the guns, and it led me to being unable to avoid that buzzard missile, unfortunately. But we went again, and we did actually make it all the way to the helicopter. Unfortunately, gunner jumped into the wrong seat and it delayed us quite a bit. So it was at this point we thought, no, we'll just restart it. So every time we complete a heist, we do need to set it all up again. So it's better if we know we're not going to make it, just to quit out and start it again. But on our 3rd run here, the guys inside made it through the facility really quick. We did not too bad with the damage, so it was just down to the time. And unfortunately it was our 38 seconds outside. So that ended our attempts for the night, and it wasn't until the following night that we had everything all set back up again and ready to go. And once again we struggled with our 4th, so in jumped this level 84, and once again a couple of minutes communicating with him, letting him know what we were attempting and what we were doing. And Nick also gave him access to his Hikuchu drag, but unfortunately he wasn't quick enough in getting to the helicopter, so we did have to pick him up. And the reason Nick gave him his bike was just basically because the speed loss when you're carrying a passenger. We thought it'd be better if I got there first, being the pilot, to get things all started. But moving on to the end of this heist, and unfortunately a combination of the gunner not being able to hit the buzzers and the buzzers coming in too quickly meant we just had to quit out. So crashed into the mountain and restarted it again. Now we did go again with that level 84, and this time we did come on the back of my bike, but unfortunately I not only wiped myself out, but Nick and Dimples made sure I stayed down as well.
Oops. Oh, that was brilliant.
And as good as that was, we didn't have any further success later that night, and unfortunately I have lost the footage of the rather unusual American that we ran into trying the heist. But We then found ourselves teamed up with a rather lowly level 33 with an unusual crew tag as well, but not that unusual considering he is from Australia. But moving on to the heist, things were going really well up until the point where he was struggling to actually use the main gun on the Valkyrie. But we decided just to take it along to the finishing line anyway, 2 hits, see what the overall damage was.
10.5 minutes.
And as you heard, I had a really good time on the stopwatch that I had going, but unfortunately those 2 buzzard missiles were a little too much and it knocked us over the vehicle damage of 2% or less. And it was from this point on that we just felt the Rockstar gods were against us for at least 4 or 5 attempts.
We need to reset.
Dimple's getting a bug there when she tried to access the computer inside. We then had this, where despite me requesting a Hakuchu drag,
Why the hell is that Karuma spawned?
you can hear the frustration starting to kind of set in. But still the Rockstar gods were trying to fight against us, and we got away with this one here where both Nick and Dimples hit the propeller blades, but they did survive. But unfortunately we then ran into some technical difficulties with Roughwood, who lost his internet connection. We then had some of that Rockstar RNG with the bounce I get here, and combining that with the Aussie ping, Roughwood goes flying, then tries the age-old insurance scam by throwing himself onto the bonnet of this car.
We'll reset, guys. Oh, don't leave, Nick. I'll die.
After that one, we did have fairly well on the next one. We did come up and try another method of taking out a couple of the buzzards while we were on the beach.
Right, we'll jump in the heli. We're good on time.
And at that point we actually did think that we were going to complete it, but the Rockstar RNG kicked in and these 2 buzzards stopped us in our tracks.
No. We were good up until those last 2 buzzards, but they just took forever to come in.
So there was only one decision to be made, and that was to ditch the Valkyrie and fail the mission. Those 2 buzzards at the end probably slow, most likely because of us waiting on the beach. The next run, Nick gets slammed off the bike with the RNG of the traffic, and that was, you guessed it, another reset.
Resetting, I keep going. Okay.
Unfortunately the bike got knocked so far away it was pointless trying to get back on it and keep going. But after 2 nights or early mornings, as it was in Roughwood's case, of attempts, we did finally get this run. And I just want to take this time just to say thanks to Roughwood for helping us out, persevering with our antics of the numerous resets. We couldn't have done it without you, so cheers mate. But from here on I'm going to take you through exactly what you need to do, who needs to go where, and what needs to be done and when. And first up, the timer starts as soon as you see yourself outside the house. And it is better to have someone running a stopwatch so you can keep an eye on your times. Now you do need a fast vehicle. The Hakuchu drag is by far the best vehicle to get you there. And although we are riding 2 on each bike, I reckon it would lose you around about 10 seconds compared to everyone having their own bike, but unfortunately Roughwood didn't have a Hakuchu drag and wasn't too confident on the route that we were taking. As for the route itself, you do need to follow this road here. So once you come out in front of the house, it's a right turn straight along this road until you can't go straight anymore, and then you're ducking behind the barrier here. From here you're getting down onto this dirt track in the valley here as quickly as possible, down through the tunnel, and once you're out the other side you need to be taking a left over the crest of the ridge. Now the best place to do that is just at this point here, and then from here you're back onto the road and heading up towards Stab City. Now while we're on that road I will just let you know what everyone is doing. So I am pilot and obviously Roughwood behind me is the gunner. Nick and Dimples are the two that's going into the building. Now those two players that are going into the building do need to have scuba suits equipped as outfits, and to get them enabled, the player that is hosting the heist does need to change the setting at the setup to allow player saved outfits, which will allow those two to select the scuba outfits. Now for the drive along here, if anyone does fall off their bike, providing the bike is really close and they can get back on really quickly, it shouldn't really affect the time too much. The main thing that you want to ensure is that the pilot does try to get there first, as it does take a few seconds just to get that Valkyrie up and running, and what you don't want is everybody sitting waiting on the pilot getting to the helicopter to get it started up. As for everyone's seating position within the Valkyrie, ultimately if you're working with 4 players that everyone knows each other, it won't really matter, but as we were working with a random, he was the gunner, we wanted him in the front seat, and your 2 that were going inside the Humane Labs were the rear gunners. Now as you can see with the timing, by the time I actually get the Valkyrie up and running, Nick and Dimples are in, and their role now is to use those side machine guns and blast behind us. The boost that you get from doing that is actually quite remarkable, the amount of speed boost that you can get from doing that, so make sure that both side gunners are shooting behind. Now if you are the pilot, you may start to see the yellow marker just in the middle top of my screen, and that's where I'm looking to keep it at all times. Try and keep the yellow marker that you're going for right on the top edge of the screen and in the middle as possible. That will give you the quickest, fastest line to get to that marker. Now the main gunner can also shoot behind them, but as we're working with randoms, we didn't want to add into the mix something else that could go wrong. So ultimately we just advised everyone that we worked with not to shoot the gun at all, as in case they shot forward, that would obviously slow us down a little bit. And as we're getting close to the marker, it's just about time for the rear gunners to make a jump, and as soon as they have jumped from the helicopter, the pilot wants to make a right turn and head down to the mountain on the right hand side of Humane Labs and land it there. Now in terms of timing, you want to be landing on top of this mountain round about the 4 minutes to 4 minutes 10 second mark. If you land it round about that sort of time, you know you're doing good. It's then that the gunner and the pilot have nothing much to do for about a minute and a half. They are not going to take out any of the ground troops, they are only concentrating on 2 buzzards that are going to spawn in. Meantime, this is not the actual gameplay footage, this is from a previous attempt where myself and Dimples went inside, but those 2 that do go inside, it is RPGs and any close quarter weapon. RPGs as much as possible is the easiest way to take out any of the enemies, and I'm using the carbine for anyone that's too close for the RPG. But the 2 inside want to be making their way through the labyrinth of the Humane Labs as quickly as possible. I was expecting a guard to spawn there, so wasted a little bit of time. But as you can see, any that's down at the far side of corridors or that, it's much easier to take them out with the RPGs rather than trying to mess about with the close quarter weapons. In saying that, there are at least 2 occasions where the close quarter weapons will be useful, and the main one is when you exit the elevator that you'll see later on. But heading up to the location that you're given to access the computer as quickly as possible, and communicating as much as you can with your partner that you're working with inside, just in case they need to snack up or add armour. You also do not want to be fully focusing on the mini-map, as it did happen with Dimples on one of our runs where an NPC enemy did in fact spawn right beside her as she walked through the door, and it wasn't on a map. So do keep an eye on your surroundings, and do be prepared to switch your weapon over if you are carrying that RPG. But here you can see we've got the last final stretch of the corridors to go, and this NPC enemy does come running at you, so it is with the close quarters weapons. And once those enemies are gone, it's just a case of getting onto the key cards and making sure that you are both inserting round about the same time. You have got quite a bit of leeway there to play with, and as soon as they are swiped it's getting in and onto the computer. Meanwhile, back up top with the pilot and the gunner, the first buzzards that you need to take out will be spawning in around about the 5-minute 15, 5-minute 30 mark, and the weapon of choice here is either the homing launcher or the sniper with the explosive rounds. And as you can see, the amount it's actually moving about, it is probably better to have the homing launcher. But back inside, with the data recovered from the computer, it is just a case of getting out. There are a couple more enemies that you do need to worry about, the primary one being right outside this elevator as soon as the doors open. But you should be able to make light work of that one and the one at the end of the corridor, which then only leaves one more enemy around the corner. And then with him dispatched, it's just a case of making your way through the final door and jumping into the water. Now you do want to be communicating with the pilot and the gunner, letting them know when you are entering the tunnel, as it will be around about that point that the second buzzard that they need to take out will spawn in.
You guys in the tunnels? Alright.
Now if you don't take out this second buzzard at this point, it will follow you down to the beach and it will only add to the amount of enemies that you have to take out.
Okay, we'll take this helicopter out first.
And at this point everything is going well for us, apart from the fact that the buzzard just will not stick its head up past this mountain for whatever reason.
My God, where is it?
I do start to think the Rockstar gods are trying to play with us again, but it does eventually pop up over the top of the mountain and the two of us let rip at it.
Let's go.
From here it's getting to the beach as quickly as possible to be able to pick up the two that were inside the Humane Labs, who are now swimming out through the tunnels. And it's at this point that the pilot and the gunner's real roles within the heist actually come into play, where the pilot needs to keep the Valkyrie positioned in such a way the gunner can shoot the buzzards.
The first helicopter that will come at us is from the right.
And the gunner does need speed and accuracy in taking out the buzzards as quickly as possible, because we do get two coming in at us straight away. So getting onto the beach, we are just waiting for Nick and Dimples to come out the water and take up their positions on the rear gunner.
I'll turn straight away and try and get as much height as I can.
And as you heard me saying there, in terms of positioning the Valkyrie as pilot, you want to get a higher position than the incoming buzzards. It makes it a lot easier for the gunner to take them out. And it is the main gunner that you want to be using to take out the buzzards, so position your Valkyrie accordingly so as he can get the best line of sight onto them. If the side gunners can get shots onto them, that's great, but you do want your main gunner to be taking out these buzzards as quickly as possible. And as you may have heard there, we were just calling out the position of the next incoming buzzard for Roughwood to be able to target on them, as he was having a little bit of difficulty when he was zooming in and out on the minigun to actually spot where they were coming from. The other issue as pilot that you do want to be looking out for is the kamikaze flight paths of these buzzards. They do tend to get really close when you come in, and even more so when this final buzzard actually comes in towards us. You do see it gets really close.
That's gone. Oh, Jesus.
And as you heard, that one did take me a little bit by surprise. It did take me a second or two just to steady off the Valkyrie and get it in position for Roughwood to take out with the front guns.
Let's go. Shoot bang, shoot bang, shoot bang, shoot bang. Let's go, go, go. We're at 9.5 minutes.
Could you tell I was a little bit excited about the prospect of actually completing this one?
Yeah, we didn't get hit once there.
And as you may have heard, I did have a time of 9.5 minutes at that point on the stopwatch, so it was looking good for us now.
Unless you count the propeller damage off of Nick and Dimples jumping.
The only thing that we did have to worry about was the potential damage from any bullets from the buzzards, as we didn't take any missile hits. The timer itself does actually stop once you hit that yellow marker inside the dam and you lose control of your player.
There we go. 10:31. Well done.
And finishing things off with one of the best cutscenes in the game, we finally do destroy the Valkyrie and head over to see how we'd go on. But we do finish with an overall time of 10 minutes 36 and 1% damage.
Yes. That's it. Well done, guys.
And with that one done, we do get the pop-up for the career progress, but I'll just jump in and double check that we have it all ticked off, and we can see that we have the first 3 heists all completed, just leaving Series A and the pack standard. Once again, a huge thanks to Nick, Dimples and especially to Roughwood for jumping in and helping us out for that elite challenge. But that is it from me for today, guys. If you did enjoy the video, do leave a like, or if you are new here, why not consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.